Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.
Well, those of you who didn't realise, I've just played the outro instead of the intro. So not to worry. We are in the studio. I tell you what, I can't be trusted. I don't know how I managed to do anything. Let me just introduce who I've got with me today. As usual, I've got my lovely co-host Adele, who is the executive midlife coach and who's still laughing.
Morning.
Also in the studio today, we've got our guest, who is Sally Marshall. Welcome, Sally. And Sally is a social enterprise advisor and a facilitator for peer networks. So she works with Social Enterprise Kent, but she is also the publisher of Steer Your Business magazine. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you. Great to be here.
And Sally has been on the show a couple of times now, haven't you?
I have.
And Sally is an expert in business numbers and business planning. So obviously, whilst she's here, it would be daft of us to actually let her go before she spills absolutely everything she knows, wouldn't it? So what we're going to be talking about today, strangely enough, we're not going to be talking about how to work the knobs and buttons on your radio studio console. We are going to be talking about writing a business plan. So welcome, Sally.
Thank you.
But before, of course, as Sally doesn't know about this, what we're going to do is we are going to have our little sort of roundup of the week, aren't we? Of what we've learnt, what we've done. And we've now introduced quote of the week.
We have.
So, have you got one?
I have, yeah.
Yeah,
I've got one.
See, it's all working. Sally, have you got one?
No.
Never mind. I'll tell you what, we'll keep going. You can come up with one. You see, this is why we don't tell you. All right? And to be fair, you couldn't even have listened into last week's show to have found out because we've just done it. So while Sally's scrabbling around on her phone trying to find a quote, Adele, you go first.
So for me, it is motivation gets you started, but habit gets you results.
Okie dokie.
Because everyone says to me, it's all about motivation. So it's, that gets you started, but what will get consistent results will be the habits that you build in. It's not all about motivation because it won't last.
Although you do have to be motivated to build the habits in, don't you?
You do. Starts off with motivation and then you move to habits.
So look at your habits. Look at what you're doing regularly. So if you're a perpetual phone scroller, how much time does that take up?
Lots.
Yeah, I used to spend a lot of time opening and closing my email.
Why?
Well, it's when we look at stuff. I mean, this is why people phone scroll. So I'm not taking the mickey out of anybody at all because I think if we're not careful, we all do something along those lines, and I certainly did. And mine was opening email. Because when you do that, you get a little shot of sort of dopamine that's a little reward. So if you're feeling confused or perhaps you're a bit, a bit down or you need a bit of a break, look at the phone. Look at the phone, open something up, get a little, something's dropped in. Oh, that's good. And you get that little shot of dopamine. The problem is what you very often get is a little shot of more stuff to put into your brain. So,
Yes.
There's an email come in from somebody. Oh, shall I respond to that? No, because you're supposed to be in the middle of something. So you get a little distraction along with your shot of dopamine. So that's what I stopped doing. I found something else to do. Instead of opening up the email. I would just get up and walk around. And yawning. That's something I learned a little while ago, actually. Yawning is really good for sort of resetting your brain and helping your creativity. So force yourself to yawn. My quote is, you don't always get what you want. And that's not actually directed at... that's more about sort of being able to say no to people. So I'm not suggesting you say this to people, but that you keep it in your head if you have to tell somebody. It could be a family member, it could be a client, it could be whatever the circumstances are. Actually, you just don't always get what you want. That's sort of life. And that we as people, we're not obliged to actually give people everything that they want. And the other thing is, neither are we obliged to explain it all the time.
No. Don't explain.
We don't have to explain it.
No.
But just actually, that's not what is going to be happening. Sorry. You find your own way of doing it, but you don't always get what you want. Have you found one, Sally?
I have found one, yeah.
Oh, look, stop scratching. You see, she's too hot for us. Go on.
I like this one. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting a different result.
Yeah.
And so many of us do that. We do what we've always done. But actually, sometimes you just need to change it a little bit to get the result that you want.
And in fact, yeah. I mean, I need to learn a lesson every time I come on air. It's always sort of a rush, and there's a word for what happens, but it goes wrong. Yeah, time to stop and regroup. So you don't all. Yeah, so what was it again? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing. So if you're not getting results that you want,
you need to do something differently.
Shake it up and do something different. Okay. Where are we on to now? We're on to what books are we reading? Are you reading a book?
Yeah, I am actually. So I have got everything, because it's sort of linked to my week, really. Everything is Figure Outable by Marie Forleo. So for me, it's all about having that growth mindset. And as difficult as some things may be as you face into, especially as business owners when you're on your own. So for me, it's reading that Figure Outable and just, figure things out.
Everything, I'm writing this down, everything is Figure Outable by...
And it's by Marie Forleo. And she does lots of, you can see lots of her clips. So she's got her own show on YouTube. Yeah. But for me, I love the audio. I do listen to my books on Audible. But I love it because it's just practical, it's simple, and it's going, things, you can figure things out.
Okay, what we're going to do in this new sort of spirit of being organised and changing things is, are you ready for this? We're going to be tweeting out the quotes and recommendations. Okay. And maybe putting them on our Facebook page and our LinkedIn page. So I'm sitting there going, well, what should we put out on here? What sort of content? How about the content we already have? Let's not go and reinvent stuff. We've already got some really, really good stuff.
We do.
My book, actually, I can't even remember the name of it, but I'm going to say what it is. It's a series of books. They're murder mysteries. They're really quite simple. And they're on, not LinkedIn. What's that thing where you press a button and you get books? Kindle Unlimited. Yep. And I'm just going through them, actually. I'm going through them one at a time. There's about 10 in there. And I'm just using it to switch off. Mm-hmm. And that's it. There's a bit of murder. There's a bit of love. There's a bit of relationship stuff going on, and I'm just actually sort of chilling out, and I'm just dipping into those, and it's absolutely fantastic. Just to, without having to turn the telly on, do anything like that. Just go. Actually, I'm going to have 5 minutes where I'm going to lose myself. Yep. And so I found a seam. I found a seam of this series of books on Kindle Unlimited, and that's what I'm doing. Sally, what have you got to recommend? Anything?
I must be a bit sad, I think, because I read business books. And the one I've been rereading is Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway by Susan Jeffers. And I think everybody should read it at some point. My background is a bit of losing my confidence and being nervous about doing stuff, a bit of that imposter syndrome that we all suffer from every now and again. And it's one of those books that just you just need to remind yourself. I think also it just reminds you that everybody that getting scared about something or feeling fear is something that we all do. It's not a weakness. We all have, normal.
Yeah, it's quite normal. we all have a thing that we do. So thank you. In fact, I think I'm going to go and reread that book. I think it's a really, really good book. Okay, where are we up to now? Tools. Tool of the week. No names.
No. I have been so excited about telling you about this one.
Oh dear.
I have. Because it's our trusted friend Canva. And guess what they have released this week?
They've got some new stuff, haven't they? What are they doing now?
It's called Quick Create. And what you do, you click on socials and then you click on Quick Create. And you can put an image and some text in, and it immediately, and then you can tick Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and it creates the templates. It is so amazing. I've been playing around.
So that is different that's different to resizing, isn't it? So for people who are using Canva, this is not okay. You can press a button and go and resize it, where you actually have to do jiggling around, don't you?
Yeah. This is
because if you try and turn Twitter into Instagram, it just doesn't work.
No, and I think they've had that feedback, so they've taken that, and then you click on it, and it has all the if you choose the 4 of them, the 4 templates, and then you can quickly tweak your brand. If you've got Pro, then you have your brand palette. You can tweak them, but you've got all 4 of them under your nose, so you can do some subtle changes. I was like, love it. Absolutely love it. And
so what does it do? It does Twitter, Instagram,
Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram stories.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
Gonna
I
have a look at that.
know. It is amazing.
I've been using the template for Instagram
Yeah.
stories.
But what it does, you can take one image, one text, and then it just gives you. But like you said, you don't have to resize and jiggle. It does all that for
Will
you.
it post to Instagram stories?
Then you can use.
Will it schedule posts to because on Canva you can actually post out on. I don't use it because I use other stuff,
You've got the content
but
planner.
you can post out onto social media profiles. I wonder if it will
don't
schedule to
know.
stories because at the moment I use business Facebook or Meta or whatever they
Meta
use
Business,
it.
yeah.
That's the only tool I know at the moment that will schedule stories to Instagram and Facebook.
Right, homework for me. I will go and find out.
You will, won't
I
you?
will. But it's really good.
That'll keep you out of mischief,
It
won't
will.
it? My tool of the week is, well, I've actually got two, and one of them I am new to, and the other one I am revisiting. And the one I'm new to is Social Buffer. No, so
You've created a new bit of software.
I have.
You've created a new software.
I'm at it. All right, cut that. It's Zoho Social. So I have rather got into that, and I've got it through a Zoho One account, which is really seriously good value. And it's really easy to use. It's really intuitive. You can have one of every profile in there to make up a brand. So I suppose that is a bit of a problem, a downfall actually, is that if you have two Twitter accounts for your brand, which in a way I do because I have my own Twitter account as Sian Murphy, and then there's a Twitter account for the Women in Business radio show. You can't have both of those in, so you can have one Twitter account, one Facebook account, one Google My Business, one Pinterest, and so on and so forth. But it is so easy to get stuff scheduled, to put it out, and to engage. So you can. One of the things I wanted to do, because I do like to support people, is you can schedule retweets. There aren't that many tools around that will actually let you schedule retweets. I should have taken my chewing gum out. And that comes me on to the other one that I'm actually revisiting, which is Buffer. Where all of the spare things I've put into Buffer, which also allows you to schedule retweets. And
I didn't realise that. I use Buffer, but I didn't realise that.
It does.
I need to go and look at
I'll
that.
tell you what to do as well. Are you ready? So you find your tweet. I think that's it. Yes. I'm trying to think. I think you find your tweet. You have to have the Buffer extension. So like the Chrome or the Safari extension. So you're in Twitter, you find the tweet that you want to retweet, and you press on Buffer. There's a little buffer sign is integrated into like the Twitter account down with all the retweets and like stuff. You press on that and you then get the option you can then schedule that retweet into a queue. Because I like to go on and support people, but I don't necessarily want to go on and just retweet everything at 10 o'clock at night.
No.
So those are my two tools. Sally, have you got a tool?
I've been looking at membership sites and experimenting with a few, and the one I seem to like at the moment is Simplero, which is really easy to use, and it has everything in one place, so you don't need to worry about linking everything because it does it all for you. So that's my favourite one at the moment.
Simplero.
Simplero, it's called. Yeah.
It's membership sites, and that sort of content-driven membership and interaction is really sort of coming to the forefront at the moment, isn't it? It's something that we've been working on for quite some time because we build WordPress websites, and it's something that very often people, it used to be that you would just set up, that was the automatic place would be to have a website where you set up your own membership system. But, it's just not that easy. It's really not that easy. It can be quite expensive and time-consuming to configure and all of that sort of thing. And now when we have people come to us and say, I'd like to build a membership site, we will say, have you seen things like Teachable? Have you seen this, that and the other? Sort of have a bit of a rethink about what it is you want to achieve and what you want to end up with, rather more than the starting point being the tool or the platform that you want to build it on. So I think that's really, really useful, Sally. So it's Simplero.
Simplero, yeah.
How far have you got down the process with it yet? Are you able to sort of describe how it works, the sort of results that you can get? So what can you, for instance, what can you put up there to include as part of your membership, if you like?
So I've got a membership set up, which is called the Make It Happen Academy. and it includes a course. It's got a forum in there. I can have a group in there. I've got linked into it events, so I can show events. You can do everything that you want to do on a membership site, really. It's really quite clever.
So it sort of brings it all together, and it's a sort of thing. It has a monthly fee associated with it, does it? Yes. So, and I, within reason, however much that monthly fee is, I am prepared to bet it is a lot cheaper and simpler and quicker to set up than a website that you build in-house.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of videos on there, and there's lots of help, but it is really intuitive as well. Yeah. It's quite easy to work out what you want. I'm not a techie person particularly, and I certainly don't build websites, but I can do it. I can make it do what I want it to do.
So I think that's a really, really useful tool. And I think that could be a conversation for later on, because having just set up a community myself, and also Adelle is involved with running her own community and also a community company. I think what we need to talk about in the next few weeks is actually getting that community going, because the platform, what you build it on and what you put into it, is just one bit of it. Yes. You then sort of have to get these people that form part of your community to actually firstly start using it, and using it in the way that you envisaged using it, and interacting either with you or with each other, because that's what a community does, doesn't it? It does. Is they do stuff. I think that would make a really, really good topic.
Yeah, it would do, actually, because probably over the last 4 weeks, my moment is when I say to people, I've got a club, you got that passive membership model, and I just go, deep breath, Adelle, count to 10. There is nothing passive about running a membership.
No.
Please do not refer to my business model as passive membership income. So for me, I think there's a bit of a shadow or a misconception or a myth or a misunderstanding. So I would with pleasure love to do that show, because if you think membership is a passive income model, then...
Should we be having a different model here? Is it a community model rather more than a membership model?
Yes. I'm saying
it is, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I've had to change the rhetoric simply because I just kept meeting, you've got a membership model, it's passive. And I'm like, oh. So now I have changed the rhetoric, and it's a club, it's a community, it's a place where we connect and create this community. It is not a membership model.
Because even if it's one-to-one, even if you're having, one-to-one conversations with people, there just happen to be lots of them. Yeah, it's still sort of, I must say, a community, but it's still interactive, isn't it? And absolutely. I think that's very, very different to you're just throwing lessons at people.
Yeah.
So I think what we're doing here is distinguishing between what Sally's doing, what Adelle's doing, and what I'm doing, where you actually meet and hold conversations with people with, say, something like Udemy.
Yes.
And I haven't been on there for a while, actually, but Udemy, where there are courses that have been created and the courses are being delivered to you, and you may be able to ask some questions, but there isn't necessarily that one-to-one interaction. No. And it's not a bad thing, sometimes you just need to learn, and there's some really, really superb teachers and courses on there, but it's different, isn't it?
Absolutely. It depends. It's all I say to people, what's the problem you're trying to fix? Because, but we mustn't, please don't bucket membership up in this whole thing around passive income and evergreen.
So they are members. Yeah. They are members, but it's not passive. There is no such thing as passive income. So you've got to do something.
Leveraged, maybe,
I don't think it's the word that's wrong. I think it's what people draw from that conclusion that you're just. There's too many pictures of people sat on the beach.
I know,
with like pressing a button on a laptop. I tell you what, it's not quite as simple as that.
No, it's not.
Anyway, on to, have I done everybody? I have, haven't I? We've all done our tools. On to, what have we learnt this week? Adelle, what have you learnt this week?
So for me, it was the three of us in a group, in a network, and we were talking about assumptions. So for me, what have I learnt this week is lead with data. So you may think you're getting your leads or your traffic to your website. Well, it's going to be Facebook, because that's where it's engaging. And I say, no, just step back. And actually, when you look at the data, then that's where it's telling you. And then for me, it actually isn't. It was actually just Google organic searches. It wasn't coming from my socials. And people say, well, no, it should be coming. I said, I'm not arguing. Here is the data. So for me, the lessons learned is don't assume anything, especially people just assume everything from your website is coming from socials. And when I sat back, it wasn't. It was just coming from organic searches.
Shall I tell you the other thing people assume? And I'm coming at this from the sort of the web builder, web developer angle. If something isn't working, they assume it's their website. So we have people come to us, I'm not getting any leads. This isn't working. People don't like my website. So can you, I'd like it rebuilt. How do you know people don't like your website? Well, nobody, the phone doesn't ring, nothing happens, nobody uses the form. Until you put something like Google Analytics in the back and leave it there for a while and actually have a look and see what's actually happening, you have no idea at all. None. And there are things that you can do with things like Facebook as well as Google Analytics so that you can measure exactly what's happening and what's working and what isn't. And don't change anything until you know.
Exactly. Take the emotion out of it.
Yeah.
Because it's... in my experience, it's not what you think it is.
I think what happens is people spend a lot of time doing stuff. So if they sit there and they're posting a lot of stuff on Facebook and a lot of stuff on Twitter and they're running, they're spending a lot of money on Facebook ads and nothing's happening, people leap to the conclusion or the assumption that it's what they're spending a lot of time and money on that isn't happening, that isn't working. Very often it's actually something at the other end. It's got nothing to do with that. It's what happens when the phone's picked up. Yes. Or that the phone, it could be something really stupid like the phone number's wrong. Don't laugh.
I know somebody that's happened to. He very proudly showed me an advert in a magazine, and when I looked at it, I said the email address is wrong, and he hadn't noticed, and it then said, that explains why I haven't had any leads from it.
It does. And sometimes before you go and spend a lot of money redeveloping something, just actually check.
That's it. That's perfect. That's what we were saying in this group discussion.
Yeah. Do you know, I'll talk very, very quickly about this. I have told this story before. When I'm getting quite old and my hair wasn't going fantastic, and I was looking for a hairdresser who specialised in hairs, in sort of remodelling hair for women who were 60. And I found this perfect advert on Google, and I rang them up. They were only in Blackheath. It was lovely. I have a specialist in hair redesign for 60-year-old women. So I rang the number. I said, I understand that you specialise in helping women who are 60 have redo their hair. We help everybody. We can work on anybody's hair. Right, okay. Yeah, but it says here on this advert that you specialise in that. So is there a person there that specialises in that? Well, they all specialise in everything. They're all really good at whoever they are. And whoever had designed this ad campaign had forgotten to tell the person picking the phone up. I didn't want to hear about you specialise in everything. I wanted, that's why I rang. And I just said, right, okay, thank you, bye. And I went away. The phone could have been ringing all day, but this girl, she was quite young at the end. He's going, no, we do everything. We do absolutely everything. There you go. Okay, I'm waffling on. Where did I get to? We've done your what have you learnt? What have you learnt, Sally?
I think just a reminder that actually we assume that everybody knows what we know, and they don't. So what to you might be common sense and just what you do is not to somebody else.
Yes.
So when you're working with people, actually you need to go back to basics. It's no good starting, if you've got 5 years experience, it's no good starting at that point because somebody else needs to start right at the beginning. So it doesn't matter if you go back to the real basics because a lot of your potential clients or customers, that's where they are.
Yes, and you have to sort of ask that question, don't you, and have like searching questions to find out where somebody is. I was working with somebody and I said to them, why don't you just set up a newsletter? And they said, what's that? And
which if you do a newsletter, you do it every week or every month.
Well, if you're in business, my assumption was if you're in business, if you're doing stuff, a newsletter may not be right for you. It was actually spot on for this person. It may not be right for you, but you sort of know what one is.
Yes.
But she didn't. That's sort of okay. I was wrong for assuming that she did, and when I explained it, that actually you get one of these, you probably get one from Ocado or whatever. She went, yes, okay, yes.
Terminology sometimes.
Yeah, and then she got it. Mine is actually not knowing what's next in a project, what you actually have to do. What is the next step in a project can actually just derail the whole thing. And you can, if you've set aside an hour to focus on a project, when you click onto that hour, if you don't know exactly what your next action is, you can spend 45 minutes of that hour looking at it, making a decision about what to do, then doing it. You've got 15 minutes left, and then you come back to it again for the next hour, whenever it is you're going to focus on it the next day, and you still don't know what's next. So if something isn't working, if you're wasting time, you don't know what you're doing, or if people aren't buying your stuff, have you got the what's next in there? If you're talking to somebody and they go, that sounds interesting, what's next? What is it that you do next that actually takes them on to the next step? I have come across failings in myself so many times actually this week where I don't know what the next step is. That's what I've learnt.
Yeah. No, do you know what? I agree with you, because I'm putting in a new process, and I was following the steps, and I'm thinking I again assumed that. So I thought, no, just go back and actually write down each step and the sequence of it, because how I thought the sequence was going, it actually wasn't. And yeah, so I literally as I left the house this morning. So that really resonates with me, that one.
I've got quite a few large projects on at the moment, and I have these massive to-do lists. And I'm sitting there looking at it, but what I couldn't actually do was decide what to do. And then I realised I actually don't know what it is I have to do next. Yeah. So when I move them around a bit, I go, actually, no, that makes sense. Yes. What I need to do next is this, and this. And it's now also ready for the next time that I log on, if you like, onto that project and go, okay, now what do I do next?
Yeah.
Makes life so much easier.
Love it.
We need to assume, or stop assuming, that everybody likes to hear all of this claptrap before we start talking about the real thing.
It's all about us.
We need to actually get some feedback. Do people want all of our insights over the last week for the first half hour? I don't know, but I tell you what I do know. It is time now for us to start focusing on the topic for this week, which is writing your business plan. And thank goodness we've got Sally Marshall in the studio, because it's no coincidence. You may think things just happen on this show, but, I do think about a few things. This is rather sort of Sally's area of expertise, isn't it?
Well, I have done a few in my time.
You have. So your original background was you were in government, weren't you? And you were sort of developing strategy and all sorts of various bits and pieces. Actually, the House of Commons.
House of Commons, yes.
Strategy, planning and performance, and you've now taken that. I'm just pricing down Sally's entire life into 30 yes, into one sentence. So you take all of that, and now you work with businesses, partly through Social Enterprise Kent, but also partly through your own initiative and what you do working with your own clients, and help them create all sorts of things, help them generate business growth. And the starting point is a business plan.
Yes,
so definitely. You should know what you're talking about. So let's get started. So let's start out with, it may seem really obvious this, but why do you need a business plan?
Okay, a business plan is actually the roadmap for your business. So when you're saying you don't know what to do next, that should probably be in your business plan.
There's a clue there. see, success. What is it? Success leaves clues, or okay.
That's what we get our guests in, because this is where we get our own.
I do it. It's like 3 sessions, Sally. Okay, so when you get to the end of the half hour and you're like totally wrung out, you know why, don't you? What we've done is we've concertinaed 4.5 hours of one-to-one session down into 10 minutes,
and we're off.
A business plan is just a strategy or plan for your business which takes you from where you are now to where you want to be. And I always try and work backwards. So what do you actually need to do and have in place to get to that point where you want to be? So have your community with however many members you want. what do you actually need to put in place to get that?
I like the term roadmap. Actually, have we got any other terms? Because I think it's not that I don't like roadmap. Is there anything else that we can call it? I'll tell you why, because I think business plan is one of those things that everybody says you need to have one, and then everybody gets really confused about what it is and what it should do. Some of it's finance, some of it's to get a loan or financing or angel investment. Some of it's to show you and your staff where you're going. Some of it's just for you, and you could be stuck on the fridge. But I think sometimes it has this sort of confusion around it, whereas roadmap I like. Is there anything else? We've got anything a bit more girly? We've got anything girly?
No.
Never mind.
Sometimes I call it a playbook or a roadmap. Sometimes I, just...
Okay.
Just so it's less corporate for me. Being in corporate for
That was
32
it.
years,
That was it. It's
roadmap's
less
corporate.
Yes,
so
yes.
I call it a playbook.
Okay. But basically, you start at what you want after a set period of time, and then you put you work backwards to say what you have to do.
Yeah, and that's how you set the goals. And when you say your to-do list is too overwhelming, then if you break it down, chunk it down to what do I actually need to do today? What do I need to do this week? What do I need to do this month? Where will I be in 3 months' time? Then it's much more achievable. It's not so overwhelming. I need to do this, and this today, and that's going to take me to the next step.
Why don't people write them?
Most small business owners don't think they need them. They think it's a very corporate thing to do. So if you've ever worked in a big business, you probably have seen or been part of a business plan. But when people work on their own in a small business, they don't think they need it, but actually they probably need it more. Because when you work with somebody on their business plan, things start to drop into place, and it becomes much clearer as what you want to do, what you want to deliver, who you want to deliver it to, how you're going to deliver it, and actually what you want to get out of it at the other end. And if you don't know that, you can just go round and round in circles.
Shall we?
A bit like your hairdresser, we work with everyone. Well, you can't work with everyone. It's just not possible. It's just, you just can't. So when people say that, that they actually haven't got clarity of what they want, what they're delivering or offering, and who their super customer is, as they say.
So they haven't got the clarity, and they haven't told their staff, they haven't told everybody else working with them either where this is going.
And you all need to be on the same page. You need to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and who you're doing it for, really.
So what does... I think that some of the reasons that people don't do business plans is that they sound sort of really quite stuffy.
Yeah.
And they sound very, I would say, corporate, academic, lots of writing, lots of sitting down, lots of lots of numbers, lots of spreadsheets and things, and things like that. Lots of things like CRMs and all of this sort of stuff. But have you got examples of the different types of business plan that you've seen or been involved with, what they might look like?
I tend to use a template of one which is used by the finance companies. It's a good starting point. You don't have to apply for finance when you use it, but it gives you a good indicator of the sort of things that you need to have in it. And it's why do you want to be in business in the first place? What are you offering? What makes you different? How are you going to get that across to your customers?
It's really just sort of, it sounds as though it's like one of the most powerful ways of writing a business plan is to ask yourself a set of questions.
Yeah, exactly that.
And put the answers in.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you in business? And it doesn't all have to be about somebody else, does it? So, why are you in business? It doesn't have to be because you want to help people. It could be because actually I want freedom. I want financial freedom. I want personal freedom. I want to do this. I want to be able to work from wherever.
Yeah, and that's a lot of it. What's your vision? What does your what does your life? What would you like your life to look like?
Do you think that's why people very often don't write business plans? Is because they feel it isn't to do with them?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah. I think we're all conditioned perhaps to work for someone else, and it's a very different mindset when you work for yourself, and it doesn't feel as if it's you sometimes. It's a bit like that imposter syndrome thing, I guess, that, you know, you're talking about somebody else, you're not talking about me, and I can't really do that. But you can.
So it can be a bit scary when you start to put that stuff down on paper. It can be scary. It becomes real, doesn't it? Actually,
it does become real. But that's actually the good bit of it, because lots of people have dreams and ideas of what they'd like to do, but never actually do it. And when you start to write it down, it does become real, and you can see how it could happen. If I just do this and this, then the next bit will fall into place, and actually I could have that business if I wanted to, or I could have that lifestyle if I wanted to.
So let's start off let's help people listening in with how they can start to build their business plan. So get ready, Sally. Get ready. What are some of the questions that people can ask themselves to start building the structure, to start building this business plan?
Okay, so I think the key question is, what is the problem that you're solving? Because people don't buy a product or service, they buy a solution to a problem that they have. So
they also search on Google for problems. Yes. People don't search for solutions.
No.
They search for problems.
What is it that they're looking for? What is the problem that they have, and how can you help them solve it?
And that problem, I'm sort of guessing, and I may be wrong here, but that problem should be like a nutshell problem. It should be one. If you've got this great long list of problems that you're solving, you perhaps need to sort of chunk up until you come up with the big problem.
Yeah. The Google search is the key thing, really. Actually, what is it that they're looking for? What is their problem? What is it they're trying to solve? And then that gives you a clue as to how you can go in and offer that solution. And also look at the competition, see what the competition are doing. And I always say you should never worry about the competition, because people buy people, and they buy people that they know, like and trust. But if you look at what the competition are doing, it gives you a clue as to what other people are offering, how they're pricing it. And quite often, if you look at the competition, you can say, well, actually, I like this bit of what they do, and I like this bit of what they do, but I perhaps don't like that bit. So you can put your product or service together in a way that is different to everybody else.
And you understand why you're different.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the problem that you're trying to solve? What's the next question you should be asking yourself?
And who your potential customers are, because, you know, that thing about we can work with everyone, you can't. So are they, you know, male or female, or age are they? You're going back to the social media, where do they hang out on social media? Because not everybody is on every platform. So, you know, people are perhaps more social on Facebook, but more business focused on LinkedIn. So which platform?
Where are you going to start?
Where are they? Where are you going to find them? Where are you going to build that community?
I think a question that I often find is missed out, but you do sort of need to ask, because it can decide how you're going to set up your business, is, have they got any money? Because if they don't have any money to buy what you've got, you may need to think of doing it as a community interest company, where perhaps, or a charity, or just something slightly different, where you can bring in, where the way that you're going to run the business is not through people buying it, but perhaps through funding and sponsorship and that sort of thing. Because if you're providing something and people can't afford to buy it, you haven't really got a business, have you?
Well, or are you just fishing in the wrong pond?
Yeah.
So if the people that you want to work with can't afford your product, then
can you work with different people?
Should you be looking elsewhere for a different group of people, or should you maybe look at something like a community interest company, which is a different business
I think
model?
that's actually a really key thing, isn't it? Because, and I think it can be quite confusing as well, because I'm going to tie myself up in knots here. Hang on. If you want to work with people who don't have any money, and if that's who you actually want to work with, if that's where you get your satisfaction, is helping that group of people or that particular person get from where they are to a new place, if you shift and find different people in a different pond who have more money, are you then going to compromise what you wanted to do and who you wanted to work with?
No, not necessarily. It depends how you structure your business.
Okay.
So if you do the membership type model or group work, group coaching, you can do one-to-many and keep the cost down. So you can actually work with more people at a lower cost to them, but you still earn the money that you want.
So this actually is why it's critical to do a business plan, isn't it?
This is why you need to understand what you're offering and who you're offering it to, and at what price point.
And then you can rejig.
And then you can rejig it to suit. But you could do a combination of the two. So you could have some private clients that pay, a premium for your time, but then that allows you to work with the group maybe at a lower cost to them.
But that if you don't actually go through this exercise, you're not going to know that, are you? You're not going to think it through. Adele?
And there's another nuance on that. We talk about, are you selling a vitamin or a pill? So actually they probably could afford it, but they see that as a vitamin rather than a pill. So therefore, you have to look at your business model to see, can you get the economies of scale? So you could reduce the price, so you're enticing them more for the vitamin as opposed to something very painful and they will pay. So for me, that's when you need to look at the model, you need to look at your setup cost, and then it becomes a bit of an art and a science. So it is, if there's people that you want to serve that can actually not afford it due to circumstances, then potentially the CIC route. But then there's always this nuances, actually they can afford it, but they don't value it because it's not that. But we know it's important because you're investing in your future self, and that is when you're getting into vitamins, and then you get a potential discussion around price. So there's that aspect as well, I think. But maybe that's because of the field I'm in.
And all of this is the sort of thing that should be emerging in your business plan. So where have we got to? Remind me, we've got to what's the problem I'm solving? Who am I working with? What are other people out there doing? Yeah. What's the next question?
And then how are you going to market your business? How are people going to know about you? So that could be social media. It could be face-to-face networking, or just being out there talking to people. It could be a shop front. It could be coming on a radio show. It could be doing lots of talks and presentations to groups of people.
And what about what I think is probably the knottiest, most difficult problem, pricing? If you're selling cans of beans, there's sort of a recommended retail price, isn't there, that you go out and you sell for?
There isn't. If you think of it in terms of supermarkets, you could go to Aldi and Lidl and buy a can of beans for not very much money. But if it had a Waitrose or a Marks and Spencer's label on it, you'd probably pay twice as much. Yeah, but
there's a guide price, though, isn't there? You can go, okay, well, I can buy a tin of beans in Waitrose for this amount of money, or I can buy a tin of beans in Aldi for this amount of money. But if you're providing a totally brand new product, if you're providing a product that's unique, or if you're delivering a service, a coaching service can go from free up to £1 million. Who knows? How do you gauge sort of that pricing and where you are?
People buy on value. So, coaching is a classic. It's some people will say coaching is amazing because you have this conversation and you really get in my head, and then other people say it's just a conversation. Why should I pay for that? So it's the perception and the value that they get from that.
So does all of that come back into who's going to be my customer on this? Yeah, okay.
All these things are interlinked, but as you start, you need to just do a brain dump really of everything that's in your head around your business, and then start putting it under those headings of all those questions that you're asking. Let's
talk about numbers and goals. So in your business plan, what numbers should you be looking? No, let's go with what numbers must you be looking at?
Well, you need to look at cash flow to make sure you've got enough money to finance your business. So, as Adele said, set-up costs, running costs from day to day, month to month, you need to know what those are. Quite often people have no idea what those are. And it's all those hidden things that you don't realise, like the cost of your website, cost of insurance, if you're doing marketing, social media, the cost of that. If you're doing networking, the cost of that, because it does all add up.
And it's your time as well, isn't
And
it?
your time.
Your networking isn't just the 10 or could be £500 that you pay to be in a room.
No, it's the time.
It's the time that it's taken to get there and and do all of that.
Yeah.
So your setup costs, your running costs.
Yeah, and paying you as well.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, most people are in business.
Your salary. I think sometimes people forget their own salary in a business, don't they? Just sort of it just like dribbles out, doesn't it? Whereas your salary should be built in there. What other numbers? So it doesn't have to be finance. What other numbers should you be looking at?
Well, you need to have the projection of the cash flow of what you think is going to happen, and it is only a forecast. So, but based on the best knowledge that you have at the time when you do it. But actually looking at the numbers within your business, like the number of customers you've got, the number of customers that you need, the cost of your products. Because quite often people will say, oh, I sold a product for £10, that's £10 in my pocket. But actually it cost you £5 to produce that product. Then you've got to put a contribution into the cost of the website and all the other bits and pieces. So your profit could only be £1 out of that. But if you go and spend £10, you're £9 in the red.
And the cost of, and I think sometimes the cost of actually selling, the amount of time that it takes to do that, onboarding, getting somebody started, all of that sort of thing tends to get lost because I think it's time. Yeah. And very often we don't put a cost against time.
And we should do.
So perhaps making a decision about who's doing a job notionally. So if you're a one-man band, if you're self-employed, if it takes you 3 hours, if you work out, okay, I go networking, I may meet 3 or 4 people. And if I do X number of those a week, I'll get one client. How much, if you were paying somebody else to do that, how much does that one client actually cost you?
Which is why it's more cost efficient to have good customers, good loyal customers that come back to you over and over again.
So one of the questions you'd also build in is how long a customer's going to stay with you, and how are you going to retain them?
And the value of the lifetime value of a customer.
Are you selling penny chews where they're just going, where they're going out the door, or are people coming back to you? And have you got a product where people do need to come back to you?
Or a second product.
Yeah.
So they might buy the first one, but actually will they buy the second one?
So the other question that we might want to put in there is I don't know if customer journey is the right word, but perhaps it is. What happens to this customer from the minute that I meet them and they're not a customer, and what happens to them, and how do I keep them with me?
Yes.
Yeah.
In a nice way.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important, because if you upset your customer and they go away, they'll tell their friends as well.
I'm saying in a nice way to differentiate between I've got you in a 3-year contract and you ain't going anywhere, and if you try to, then this is what's going to happen.
No, I think you have to... you want to keep that customer, and you want to repeat that contract, and you want them to tell their friends and colleagues as well. So that customer journey is really important, that you sort of hold their hand all the way through, and you're there for them.
So they're with you because they want to be. So how are you going to make that happen?
They stay because they want to, and they become an ambassador for your business.
That's actually really quite powerful, isn't it? Because if you know how many customers you need, it's not that you can sort of you get to them. And they go, well, that's it, zippity-doo-dah, I don't have to do anything. Because you're going to lose some customers, aren't you? There is going to be some churn. A certain number of customers are going to go. So is that something else that you also need to sort of look at predicting? Say, right, well, okay, for every 100 customers that I've got, a certain number of them each year are going to perhaps not continue doing what they're doing. Some of them are going to get ill. Some of them are going to move away if you've got a local business, and sort of look at that churn and then go, right, well, okay, I've got to my 100 customers. Now I need to, get another 15 every year to keep myself even, or, another 25 to grow. So actually sort of having that number where you know what you can get.
Yeah, churn is a really important number for customers and for staff as your business grows. because you want a business where people want to work for you. You know, they're queuing at the door every time there's a job vacancy because you're a good company to work for. And so staff churn is a really key number in a business as well.
So one of the key numbers is people that are customers, people that are staff. It could be all sorts of things, actually, couldn't it? It could be volunteers.
Yes.
You know, it could be marketers. I mean, it could just go on and on and on, couldn't it?
Because it costs you a lot of time and money to replace those people
Yeah.
each time. So the more loyal they are, the longer they stay, the more beneficial it is to you and to your business.
Is there anything else key that really must go into that business plan?
I think the numbers is one of the key things, but I always try and say to people, you know, think about Dragon's Den. If you were there in Dragon's Den and those dragons were asking you questions, could you answer those questions? And they ask you about your turnover, and a turnover is not really a key number, it's the profit
That matters, yes. Yeah.
Because you could be selling a lot of products or services, but also spending a lot of money, so you've got no profit. So that's not really.
So in fact, you could be running at a loss. You could be selling a million squidge nuts a week.
They ask, you know, they do the deep dive on the numbers because they want to make sure that as an investor, they're going to get return on their money. So those numbers are really key, but also that solution. You know, what problem are you solving? Because that's what people are going to buy on.
So if you haven't nailed that, you might as well sort of not worry about
it. You need to do a bit more work on it, just really focus
so
and
if you can't nail that at the start there, and if you can't nail that, then actually maybe not continue. Sally, before we get cut off, how can people contact you?
Okay, through Social Enterprise Kent, or through my own website, which is sallymarshallgroup.co.uk.
We will make sure that goes out. I'm sure we might have a couple more questions before we go. Adele, have you got anything that you wanted to ask? There's nothing like putting people on the spot, is there?
No, again, I was going to ask you, in terms of business plans, there's this also emerging theme around like corporate social responsibility as well, and giving back. So I've been hearing people including that in their business plans as well. So I didn't know what your view was on that, Sally.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing to do. And it's nice to be able to give back. So that doesn't necessarily need to be in terms of money. It can be in terms of time. Just allowing people to go and work in a charity or a local community. So
I think that's also a really nice way of building giving back in. I come across so many people who feel almost guilty about running their business and charging people because they think, oh, well, people can't afford it. But you're not making the buying decisions. People are making a choice to buy. You're just offering them something. And that perhaps one way of balancing that out, if it makes you feel better, is to have some of that corporate social responsibility, because all we're talking about is actually picking somebody and helping them. It may have, CSR may have these big words, but it's not. It's just, are there a certain group of people that I'm actually going to help and making a decision about it, which is far more powerful than actually giving away everything for cheap or discounting everything because you're making an assumption that somebody can't afford it. We go, this is the price. There is a route here, so if you really don't feel able to buy at that price, there is a route that you can go down where it's available.
Yeah, and buy local or buy from independents or buy from community social enterprises, community interest companies where you can, because you know that then that money is going in to help the community.
I think we need to stop there. I'm so sorry. I think we could. This is such an important topic that I think we need to get you back in, Sally, because I think we need to perhaps less waffle at the start, more sort of meaty stuff. What is your top tip for writing a business plan?
Just have a brain dump, I think. Just get all that stuff out of your head onto a piece of paper.
So thank you so much, Adele. We will see you all next week. Our special guest in the studio today, I'm losing my words again, look, you see, Sally Marshall, Social Enterprise Kent. I'm Sian Murphy. We will see you soon. Take care, everybody, in the meantime, and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Tune in next week to the Women in Business radio show for more stories, ideas and inspiration to help you grow your business.